Nintendo just had their E3 Direct, showcasing a whole bunch of new... Just kidding, they showed nothing.
Hot take.
Okay, folks, so the Nintendo Direct just got finished. We want to make this a point right in advance, okay? Typically with Nintendo conferences, especially when it comes to E3, they have their little presentation, that's the Direct now. They do those typically pre-recorded events, and then later on they might show other things, other titles and stuff. But in the past, every time they've done that, they didn't really ever show anything that was really groundbreaking or completely new.
A lot of independent games and things like that.
Yeah, so anything you're going to see coming from them at this point is stuff they're not typically excited or thought was completely newsworthy, which is a sign of the times kind of thing. The last time I believe they showed off a new Yoshi's game or something after the fact, and the game did really bad when it came out.
I would appreciate a Yoshi game right about now.
Yeah, I'd appreciate some games. So let's just rip through this right away. So first off... okay. Daemon X Machina.
Demon or Damon, it's pronounced whatever.
Looks to be some kind of really interesting game that involves mech combat.
Yep.
Looks very fast, really colorful, very bright. Looks very interesting.
When we first saw the game, both of us, we kind of said, like, Platinum? Is this a Platinum game? Because it has that kind of look to it.
Yeah.
It looks like the battle system kind of has that feel to it as well. It also kind of brings back that sort of virtual on vibe to it. They didn't announce very much about the game. We just saw some of the combat and stuff. The mechs look cool. The backgrounds look a little lackluster, but it does look like a neat title on the Switch.
We didn't actually see any kind of gameplay, though, right? From what we saw there, that could have just been pre-done assets.
It could have been. We're not sure.
We really couldn't see anything. We know it's from Marvelous Entertainment. Those guys have actually made some interesting games in the past, so there might be something there, but, nothing that's really concrete from us to grab from that.
Yeah.
The next thing we saw was them talking about Killer Queen Black.
Yeah, Killer Queen Black is I think is a pretty powerful game to have on the Switch, because I think this is the first time that it's been released on a console. It was only in arcades before that, and it was kind of a big deal in arcades.
Yeah,
it was a little mini resurgence of like multiplayer arcade fun, because you had these teams that were kind of attacking each other. We've gone over this in the past. Just a fun sort of like 2D, almost RTS style of game that you don't really see very often.
And, you may not be familiar with it, but if you're a fan of going to MagFest, you may have actually seen the arcade cabinet there several times. I believe it's actually been there in the past. But I've seen it before. I didn't really acknowledge the name right away. This isn't a really big name. This isn't something that a lot of people are familiar with, but there's a core audience out there of people that may like it, and if they do, they're very excited to see this, because this is an exclusive on the Switch.
Yes, and it'll work very, very well with a console that you can bring two of them together, and then maybe you can have two teams fighting each other. It can mimic the arcade experience, I think, better than any other console right now.
Yeah. So again, just like the initial release of the Switch, we got to see Octopath Traveler a little bit.
Right, it's coming.
We got a demo of it now.
So I'm looking forward to that, because I do like those kind of old school JRPGs, and we've already seen a demo of this, and it looks really neat.
Yeah. Directly after that, we saw Pokemon Let's Go. We saw Eevee and Pikachu, and they showed off the controller. And as is before, I'm not exactly thrilled about this. It's great to see a Pokemon game come to home console so we can play it on a TV, but from what I've seen of it, there seems to be a lot of use of motion controls. I did get an early piece of news that the actual controller that's going to be bundled with this is going to be over $100 combined, everything together to buy the game and the controller.
Right, not just the controller, the game and the controller, but that's still quite pricey,
It's pretty pricey, but we don't know the exact pricing on everything yet. But what I've seen so far, if you're a Pokemon fan, you're likely going to be into this. Just from my own personal point of view, I'm more excited about the next entry, the one where we're going to get the next generation.
Well, my take on this, and I'll try to go through this super duper quick, is that Nintendo, they did see the success that was Pokemon Go, and Nintendo proper wasn't responsible necessarily for Pokemon Go, right? That was
another company that was out there that was actually making other VR games in the past.
Not VR games,
augmented reality games.
Yeah,
and they basically came to Pokemon Company, and Pokemon Company worked with them, and they created this entire experience.
Right. So that game has been downloaded. Last I checked was 750 million times.
Yes.
Okay. So Pokemon Go was huge. Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu seems to be that attempt at a marriage of the game proper that's going to be coming in 2019. We'll get that iteration. And then it seems like this is kind of the segue for folks that have only played this possibly on cell
It looks
phones.
like Niantic, the developers of this game, are actually working.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it looks like they're actually going to be working with Pokemon Company to make something that's a little bit more substantial. But at the end of the day, it looks like kind of a hybrid of both.
Yeah.
It clearly is a remake of the very first Pokemon game, which might seem interesting to some, but for me personally, I don't care. I want something fresh.
See, I see it as that segue game, and I agree with you. I do want something fresh. It is coming, and you do have multiplayer with this, which is kind of interesting. It's a different
I don't want to play.
approach.
Yeah, but see that the way they were showing it off, it's like, oh yeah, you can capture Pokemon and play with two people with a controller. It's like, yeah, but then what game is this? Is this actually Pokemon, or is this something completely different?
Well, it's not quite a Pokemon proper.
Exactly.
Title,
so I'm hoping for the best. But we did have another Pokemon game that came out around the time they announced this, because this isn't new to E3. This was announced prior.
That's right.
They released a Pokemon Quest or whatever that game was.
Yeah, the little iPhone game.
And that disappeared in like a hot minute. So I hope that Pokemon Let's Go has some better success.
Some longevity to it.
Yeah,
hopefully.
but I feel like it's really just, like you said, a stepping stone. It's just that
like
piece before they get to the actual one that everybody wants. So whatever.
Next up, we have Super Mario Party, and this is interesting. They showed off some pretty cool uses for the Switches, especially if you have multiple Switches. Many different ways to play this game, which is cool because if you're familiar with the Mario Party series, just a bunch of different mini games and stuff. Really awesome on the N64.
Yeah.
But we slowly saw the series kind of hitting a few little speed bumps.
Kinda. It got bad.
I'm not even sure what numbered iteration of Mario Party we're on now, but
it didn't even say. It just said Super Mario Party. I don't even think, we didn't even get it. I don't think we got a developer who was actually designing this either.
Because I'm pretty sure it was Bandai Namco that was producing a few of the games for a while there, and I think going back, they were producing quite a few of them, and it's been a troubled few years for that series, but they keep trucking on with them, and I feel like if there's any sort of device that can make Mario Party work, I mean, you got a bit of everything in a Switch, right?
They were showing off that you could use two screens in tandem, right? And I thought that was neat, and then I realized I don't know that many people that own a Switch.
See,
right?
I'm thinking that use case, you can have two screens, maybe 3 or 4, but if you have one screen, I'm sure that they wouldn't, develop a game specifically for multiple screens.
I really hope. Something that's typical when it comes to the Mario Party games, the game controls for the mini games are usually very simple.
Right.
So I think out there's a lot of people that might have been upset thinking, oh, I have to play with a single Joy-Con. But you know what? That's how Mario Party typically is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the controller is ideal for this instance, right? I think that's a really
Sometimes
great way to
you
have
need
that.
one button. Sometimes you only need the stick itself.
Exactly.
Multiple use cases for the Switch. I mean, there's so many ways that you can use this thing. So hopefully, if they have all their bases covered, it should be a pretty neat way of experiencing Mario Party.
One thing I found that was interesting is throughout this showcase where they're showing all these people play the game, they didn't show any kids. Throughout this entire conference, anytime they showed somebody using a Switch, it was always an adult. It was never a kid, and I thought that was hilarious. It's like, oh, do you think kids aren't playing these things? And then I realized maybe kids aren't. Maybe this is just the young adult Nintendo machine.
I hear you. I kind of want to look back at the other press conferences that we saw and see how many kids were in the Xbox One.
They showed kids.
Yeah, they
did show kids. Oh, well, not for the Xbox. We'll see Xbox and PlayStation 4. They are definitely aiming for adults, especially with the stuff they've been showing off. Now, the next game they showed off was Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yeah.
So this game it looks really nice. Now, this was possibly one of the most exciting things I saw.
I was going to say that. This was my most exciting title, the most exciting title I saw from this presentation.
Yeah. So it looks like it has some really great graphics. We don't really know enough about the gameplay, but we did get to see some in-game parts where they were doing battles. But this is like the first time we saw actual armies.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, we can guess as to what the gameplay's like. Seeing those actual armies there attacking each other, it seems like everyone within the small division of the army is the same class. So maybe it's like bow and arrows or axes or lances.
The camera went up from high and flew down, and you could see all those people. That looked really cool.
It looks great, and I think they're still keeping the same sort of weapon triangle combat, but they're creating these gigantic armies and stuff, which is really neat because for the longest time, Fire Emblem has been making little sort of adjustments throughout the lifespan of the series, but now it seems like they're taking a bigger leap here. So it seems pretty cool. Even graphically, the older Fire Emblem games, like when you'd play the games on your DS or your 3DS, and there's Wii versions and GameCube versions as well. But the art style would change between like your characters interacting and talking with each other, and then the actual like gameplay on the battlefield. But here it's almost seamless. It's like the same sort of character throughout. So
and there wasn't. Cool. And what I liked about this was they only announced like 3 houses. They didn't go, oh, there's going to be 2 houses and 1 house for you know what I mean. I don't want multiple versions of any Fire Emblem game. I want one version, and I want to enjoy that. And I don't want to have to go out and buy a second game to get a different story.
Yeah, they haven't done that too much. Just with the 3DS,
that pissed me off well enough, though. Yeah. Okay, so with this, I'm really excited because this looks like it's going to be the Fire Emblem game that's going to really pull me into the series. So it looks great.
Yes,
the gameplay looks interesting.
It looks different.
It looks different. You know, I'm actually crazy excited about this. But I think the game I'm most excited for is not Xenoblade Chronicles DLC. I'm sorry, but it's like that was just... I don't care. That game was already long. Like, it's super, super long. So we're getting some DLC, and you know what? There's going to be some gamers out there that really appreciate this, that really like that Xenoblade Chronicles game.
Shane hates JRPGs.
I love JRPGs, okay? But unfortunately, in this one instance, I didn't like that game. And I think it wasn't as good as the previous ones. I don't think it really has weight to it.
Right.
So to see them make it even longer really doesn't do much for me. This felt like they were starting to pad things out. And then they showed off a couple of indie games and stuff like that, but nothing that was really tactical, nothing that really held you there, nothing that was like, oh, we got to talk about that.
Right.
But it was the last game, which realistically, this was the majority of the conference. At this point, they showed off one game that lasted essentially the entire time. One game that Adam and I think were both very excited to see, and that was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We knew coming into this conference that we had to see this, right? Nintendo was setting up an event for Super Smash players, a tournament at this E3. So, okay, are they going to show off the Wii U version?
Yeah.
Are they going to show off the 3DS version? Well,
they did.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, okay. Here's the thing.
We got to explain ourselves.
All right. Now I'm coming at this from a fan of the series. This looks freaking awesome. Now, this looks awesome not in the way that other people would want it to be awesome, which is an entirely new game. This isn't that. What you're getting is basically a package of every single Smash Brothers game. Now, I did a video a little while ago where I literally said, I want this. I want you to take everything from the past and re-release it. And I had a theory that if they were going to release a new Smash Brothers game, they were going to take all of the games they previously made and put it into one package to save on production time, to save on costs, and to basically make the best Smash Brothers game they could possibly make. And this is exactly what they made. This is exactly what we wanted.
Can I reiterate something I said earlier?
Go ahead.
It's like someone at Nintendo opened their email after about 10 years or so and said, oh my God, look at all these Smash emails, and went through them one by one and was like, guys, no, we need this, we need Ridley. We need Ridley.
Yeah. So they added Ridley, they added the Inklings. I mean, you saw all the old characters that were in the previous games.
We finally get the Ice Climbers back in the game as well,
it's
which
everything.
Fans were crazy about.
Yeah. From what I'm to understand, you get every single stage, every single character, every little thing that was in the Smash Brothers games in the past are now in one combined package.
I didn't think I'd see Solid Snake again anytime soon.
No. I mean, I was so excited to see everything they did here. Yeah. Now, with all of that said, and with all of that in mind, okay, me as a fan, very excited for this. And I know a lot of other people out there that are Smash Brothers fans are also going to be excited about this, but I don't consider this realistically a brand new game. I feel that this is kind of a refurbishment of what they already had, and kind of refinement over the older games to make a better, stronger experience. And I am totally okay with that. This is basically what I've always wanted to see them do with Smash Brothers, because they have all these great assets, and I always get upset going to the next game thinking, is this character going to still be there? Now, I know Mario's always going to be there, but I like Solid Snake, and then the next game, he was gone. And I thought, well, Sonic is definitely going to be gone in the next game, or Pac-Man, and now it's here, right? We get everything. And we even get the stages that were on the 3DS that we didn't get on the Wii U version, so I'm excited about this. This looks like the Smash Brothers game we've all wanted to happen. But
see, I think a lot of the development that went into this game went into the tweaks of the systems and making characters and the gameplay just a little more deep little more depth to it. We're not seeing a lot of additional content as far as other characters are concerned. We don't know. We could see maybe DLC in the future for other stages, other characters.
I really hope not. I hope that they just put everything they can into this experience.
It's a beefy roster, man. It's huge. It's massive.
Because honestly, if they create DLC for this game, I'm actually going to be really upset. What you're seeing here is remasters and recreations and just takes of older levels brought forward into this game. If they add DLC on top of it, why? You already took all these assets from other games. You should be adding more levels. I hope we see more levels. I hope we see extra characters and secret characters and a bunch of other stuff. And I hope that what we've seen isn't just it. Yeah. I want there to be more, even though this is a jam-packed experience. It's just, I know, and as viewers of this, you got to understand they saved a lot of time and energy by just taking all the assets from the previous games and just fixing them up a little bit. This feels like it's probably going to be the best playing Smash Brothers games they've ever made, and we know that they're not making a game specifically with the Switch controls in mind, although that is something you're going to be able to use. They are returning again with the GameCube controller.
Yes.
And I mean, that's something that, you know,
and we're not sure how that's going to connect exactly. It looked like it was wired. You might need a dongle or some sort of adapter as well.
Yeah, the Wii U package that they had, they're likely going to release that again. Right. And for me personally, I want them to focus on making the game work on the Switch controls. I don't care about the GameCube controller nearly as much, even though it is one of my favorite controllers ever. It's just when I'm on the go, I'm not going to use the GameCube controller. Right. I'm not going to bring a dongle with me. I'm not going to plug in all that stuff. My biggest concern right now is this looked like it was a wired controller. When you take the Switch out to your friend's house and you've got it like, you know, on a table or something like that, how do you plug up this dock that has all these ports for the GameCube controller? Right. There's only one port, and it's at the bottom where the Switch lays on the table. So
I feel like we're at a point in technology where we're recreating something that's like the Wavebird, like you had mentioned.
Yeah.
A Wavebird, if you don't know, is the wireless controller that was released for the GameCube back in the day. A fantastic controller.
One of the best controllers. It was actually the first wireless controller that basically told everyone you can do this. Yeah. Nintendo was like the forefront on that.
Yeah. So we're at a point where developing something like that and releasing something like that. There's no excuse not to have that.
Yeah, I would much rather prefer a wired version of the GameCube controller. And I know that there's a couple of gamers out there that were probably a little upset today that they didn't see a left and right Joy-Con GameCube add-on. Because I know that was something that Nintendo mentioned. We can just put on whatever controllers we want on the left and right. Well, it looks like they're not doing that. It looks like they are more content to actually go out and re-release a 17-year-old controller. So, you know, there's that kind of issue there. I really do hope we see a wireless version of this directly from Nintendo, not a third party. They need to have that Nintendo stamp of quality on it. Yes. But I think that there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's a complex, a big experience, and I think there's a lot to dig into there for a game.
I think, like, just looking at the game and saying, like, oh, it's easy. They just took assets from older games and made the resolution higher. Making a statement like that, we're not making that statement. Yeah. There's a lot of work going into this game, right? It's just, like, if you're... It's Super Smash Ultimate, and it feels like they're taking. It feels like it's everything. It's the ultimate collection.
It feels like the last in a generation of a Street Fighter game, right? They take all the stuff and put it in one, right?
Absolutely.
Now it's funny because we never got anything like that, despite the fact that Smash Brothers has been going on for years. I would have expected them to do this earlier on, so it's great to see that happen now. Now, with all that being said, one thing I really, really wasn't excited about was that. Or, you know, I actually was more excited about this. They didn't show people playing Smash Brothers with one Joy-Con. Because if they did that, they would have to dumb the controls down and simplify things, and I don't think anybody wants that, right? So what we've seen here is really a more complex fighting game. And they spend a long time there showing all the little tiny things you can do in the game, right?
All the little adjustments they've made to every character.
They showed that there's like this perfect shield thing that you can do where you just release a shield at just the right time when you're getting attacked, and it creates like a perfect resistance.
Even going to characters that are like kind of clones of other characters, their Ultra Smash? Is that what it's called? Their Ultra Smashes are like even tweaked. Even if they are sort of similar, they do a little bit to add maybe a little bit more character to them.
Yeah. And this is something they can do because they already had these assets. They already had all this stuff in the past, right?
But that attention to detail is something that Nintendo fans like crave.
Exactly. Right? And that's why I think this is going to be a very important game for them to release. Typically, we didn't see Smash Brothers really push the Wii U, right? Like that didn't sell well on there. But we're hoping that with this game, it's going to do something. But that's what we're going to talk about next. this was the conference. This was it. That's all we saw. Now, we saw Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which looked amazing. We saw Fire Emblem that looked amazing, but virtually everything else we saw didn't really bring a lot of hype to it.
I came into this conference just like so positive, and right now I'm not feeling so hyped about everything.
We didn't see a lot of stuff come out for the Switch that really catapulted everything. Of course, the Switch is selling well, right? That's something I said at the end of the video was always going to happen because it was going to be a system that people wanted. But we're not seeing a large library, and unfortunately, we didn't see Animal Crossing, we didn't see Metroid Prime, we didn't see any of the Star Fox
Racing game.
We didn't see Pikmin, any Yoshi game, Bayonetta, F-Zero, and no major third-party support. And this is at a time when we really need to see stuff like that. Now, a lot of people are really upset with not seeing a Metroid game because previously they showed us a Metroid title card. And it now seems to be true that what they showed us was just a rendered title card and they had nothing else to show.
Right.
So they left that stage. They were like, okay, we're going to go find a company that can make this. And that company is so early in development, they have absolutely nothing to show you. And I think that's a very scary prospect.
Yeah, what scares me a little bit as well is that other games that we know have been in development for quite some time, we haven't seen anything from. So you did mention Yoshi. Like we have seen little teases for the new Yoshi game that should be coming out. And there was nothing at the C3 for it, which seems really bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't they be fairly close to releasing this game by now?
It's weird because we're just not seeing enough. We're not seeing enough from anything. This seemed like a really now. Adam and I sat down and we watched every single E3 press conference, and this is by far of the three major manufacturers of consoles. This was the worst. This was the worst not because they didn't have great games to show. This was the worst because they didn't show what the future is going to be like.
I feel like a parent right now saying this. I feel like this was the worst because I know they can do better.
Yeah, right. It's Nintendo. They okay. What I'm seeing here is that Nintendo has no real tactic, strong plans for next year or the year after that or anything. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people out there that say, oh, well, like last year, they didn't show off a lot, and then throughout the year, they showed some stuff. You don't understand. Last year at E3, when they showed off just a little bit of what they had, or even when they were showing off the Switch during their Switch reveal conference, they had things to show off, but then after I immediately said, well, there's not like a really good longevity there. They're showing things that are kind of remasters.
Yeah, Wii U points, basically.
And what we're seeing here with Super Smash or Smash Brothers Ultimate, again, is that thing. It's a refinement, a cool one we're looking forward to, but it's a refinement of assets they already own. And I think that's a great idea for Nintendo to do that, but we need new ideas and new concepts, and we're not seeing that. Without a lack of third-party support, things are going to start to get really bad for the Switch because people want to play games. And if third-party companies are making these games available for other platforms and we're not seeing it on this one, it's going to hurt them. Yeah. It's going to hurt them in a big bad way.
Consoles can't live without third-party support. We've seen that time and time again. And yeah, we're literally seeing nothing. The things that we do see, like things like Fire Emblem, are exciting because, like you're saying, we need different things. Fire Emblem is starting to bring something a little bit different, so that's exciting. But when we see a retread of different ideas, it's just scary. And I love Nintendo. I love their products, and they can do better.
Yeah. I mean, with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, we saw... I mean, one thing you might be worried about if you're a fan of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, or Super Smash Bros. In general, is that this wasn't a simple game. This was a complex game. You know how Smash Brothers works. You choose a character, another person chooses a character, and you understand what that character is all about. Well, Smash Brothers Ultimate has more characters than they've ever had in the entire game, and that might create a complexity that may be unattainable by the average gamer. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people out there that are huge Super Smash Brothers fans, and they're going to be able to memorize every single character, and they're going to have a lot of fun with that. But I think the complexity of these things can really drive people away.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII, right. We have a character from that now. So we've got Cloud in the series, who was originally in the Wii U expansion when they did some DLC.
He was DLC character.
Well, he's got a limit break. He's the only character that has a limit break. That's a unique ability that he has that no one else has. And he plays different. He has different things, and there's issues with that can make complex battles just kind of weird and strange.
It's strange because I feel like it can go both ways, right? Like you can lose people because there's just too much depth there. Like even the Inklings have like kind of interesting sort of characteristics to their attacks and stuff. At the same time, though, for someone that loves this kind of this series, like you're going to play this game probably forever.
If you're a fan, you're going to get into this.
Yeah.
The problem is, no one bought the Wii U version last time. It wasn't a success. The 3DS version
did
right?
well, yeah.
And the Wii U one didn't. So what we're seeing here is when the Switch version comes out, we need to see people be playing this Smash Brothers game and like it and get into it. But I know personally, as a fan of Street Fighter and some of the other Street Fighter and fighting games like that, whenever we get to the Ultimate Edition or the Arcade Edition or the Championship Edition and they include too many characters, I get a little bit lost in the shuffle because it gets complex to learn everything. So this feels like a Super Smash Brothers game made for the fans.
Yeah, and possibly made for the tournament scene as well, right?
Yeah. Like, made for folks like us, but it's the general consumers I worry about because I don't know how they're going to be able to get into it.
I can't just go up to my friend, who's never played a Super Smash Brothers game before and say, like, hey, man, jump into this. Maybe someone who's less familiar with video games on a whole, like, how do you explain every single, like, iteration of every character and every, like, move set? It becomes confusing so quickly, and then people just drop off.
Yeah, right? Now, I will say this right off the top of the bat, that I think that what you're seeing with Nintendo at this conference is basically they have no real future in mind for the Switch when it comes to what they're planning on doing. Now, you're definitely going to see more games get announced, and they're going to be coming out throughout 2019 and 2018. Well, maybe no, 2018, I think.
Yeah, 2018
I think we're pretty much
is
locked.
pretty much a sealed deal.
Yeah. 2019, we're probably going to see some more games and see some more announcements and stuff. But, folks, I'm sorry to say this, I don't think they have enough there to keep things going. There's a huge amount of success that Nintendo's riding on right now from people being so excited about the Switch, and they've got some of the best games available on their platform. But that can't keep going. A little while ago, with the PlayStation 4, there was, after that first, I think it was the first year or the second year, they had nothing. Do you remember that? They had a whole bunch of games, they had nothing, then nothing else. And then the next year they brought in a whole bunch of stuff. And then now Nintendo has that first year of a lot of cool things, but then 2018 has been slow, and it almost looks like 2019 is going to be a little bit slower as well.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. Like, my only hope now, my last sort of, like, straw that I'm grasping is that we can rely on, and you might shoot this down, but we can rely on Nintendo Directs maybe to give us some little nugget out of nowhere. I'm just hoping, because without that, like, we're not seeing anything.
No, it's true. I think that you're going to see more stuff come out of Nintendo Directs, but honestly, guys, like, everyone that's watching, you got to understand, E3 is when everyone is paying attention. This is the biggest marketing push for many of these companies out there.
We're talking millions upon millions of dollars put into this. These companies know exactly what they're doing, and they know what E3 represents. It represents kind of a best of, a showcase of what you're going to be getting for the next year or so.
And whenever you see a company not put their best foot forward at a time like this, everyone's paying attention for the negative. They're not paying attention. If there's positive, they'll pay attention to the positive. But what Nintendo just did right now was a bad move, because basically now you're in direct competition with Sony and Microsoft on the same stage, and Microsoft showed off more games than Nintendo did. Sony showed off more games than Nintendo did. So all these journalists are looking at all that stuff and going, oh, that's great. Look at all these things that gamers have to look forward to. And we're still under the assumption right now that Microsoft and Sony are both looking at making their next iteration of consoles and probably talking about those next year.
It seems very likely that those are going to be coming at E3 next year.
We got a whole list of brand new games that are being announced and being shown off from both third-party manufacturers and first. There's a whole bunch of things to look forward to from those other camps. But with Nintendo, all you're looking at right now is things they are developing in-house or have some relation with a third-party developer in a very minor capacity. And I think that this is going to be something that a lot of gamers need to be a little bit worried about, especially if you're following Nintendo and you want to see them do very well. Now, I think you're right. You're going to see a couple directs that are going to showcase new things. And you know what? I personally believe sometime throughout this entire conference, we're going to see a brand new game here or there. But when it comes to this press conference itself, this initial viewpoint, they should have shown off a lot more right at the top end.
These are expected to be the heavy hitters for the console. And not every game that they showed off was a heavy hitter either.
No, they didn't.
They looked great, but many of these titles we already knew were coming, and some of them we're not sure, maybe they haven't really proven themselves so much in the
To be
past.
fair, all I saw there that was new to me was Super Mario Party, and then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I knew that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was coming.
Yeah, we all knew that was coming.
And Fire Emblem, we knew there was a Fire Emblem coming, right? So there was nothing here that really jumped out. If they had announced any new kind of IP, right? I know know there's a lot of Nintendo fans out there that go, oh, you just want to hear them talk about old games all the time. No.
When they announced and first showed off Splatoon, that was a pretty big deal, man, and that was a new IP.
And like, I think at this point, a lot of us can understand that Splatoon 1 is basically Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2 has some new things on it, but the game itself feels very similar to the first one. So all they really did was just kind of refreshed it a bit to bring it to the Switch, which isn't a bad thing, right? This is exactly what they're doing with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's what they did with Mario Kart 8. It just feels like they took older concepts and just kind of played them a little bit different to give a new entry into the Switch series. And I think that's okay. But, you know, at the end of the day, I really feel like Nintendo could have done a lot better. So I'm placing Nintendo at the bottom of the list when it comes to all the manufacturers that were showing off their systems. Sony did the best because Sony made each game a central focus and showed them off quite a bit. And then with Microsoft, they just showed off a whole bunch of games. But when it came to Nintendo, I think that they just focused primarily on one game.
Absolutely. I said this halfway through the conference. I said this feels like a Super Smash Ultimate Direct.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny? Despite the fact that it was a pre-recorded event, it was kind of boring to watch. And when it came to Sony's was a little bit of a madhouse and a little bit of a mess, but there was actually interesting things going on to their presentation. Microsoft stuff was on a stage and you could feel the energy, but Nintendo's felt hollow. When it's a pre-recorded video, things need to happen to make it seem like you put a little bit of effort into it to celebrate that you're getting all these people together to watch something, but you basically saw nothing. You saw no real excitement or drive. Right. Even Reggie Fils-Aimé sounded bored.
Yeah, talking about the conference alone, the thing that's really depressing about this is that we have seen very fun conferences in the past with them using puppets and animation and setting up little skits and things. Give me anything. Give me something. Show me that you're working hard to keep us entertained.
If just one of them handled some kind of fruit and looked at it, then looked at the screen like they do in that time, like just something. There was really nothing there. But I want to make something really clear, okay? We watched that presentation and we saw a lot of things that we liked, but the whole presentation as a whole, the entire experience was basically a wash. And just focusing on one game, I really believe was mostly a mistake.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if it was a brand new Super Smash Bros. Experience that was recreating everything from the ground up, that might have been different. But basically what they had to show you was the game you like already is coming back with some fixes, and that's what we're giving you to keep you appeased for 2019 as we desperately try to figure out what we're going to do with the system. So I'm a little bit nervous, but we'll see what happens. What did you think of the conference? Did you think it was really cool? Were you a little bit higher spirits than us?
I'm going to lay down under the table and go to sleep.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.